So talking about backup quarterbacks, at least backup this season, starter in past seasons. I want you to take the lead on this one. I want to hear what you have to say about Zach Wilson. His performance, obviously the Sunday, his performance in past games, but also it doesn't matter that much, obviously, because Aaron Rodgers is going to come back. He's going to take that starting role no matter what. What does Zach Wilson's career path look like?
I think that most teams are always desperate for the next bridge quarterback. I don't think he's bridge quarterback yet, but there's not a team in the league, man. There's really not a team in the league that can keep their Super Bowl aspirations alive if they move to their backup quarterback. Um, the 49ers can be very, very good with Sam Darnold at quarterback. The Cowboys can be very, very good with Cooper at quarterback. But are you going to go in and beat the 49ers with him? Are we going to go in and beat the Cowboys with him? No. So
Right.
you want your backup quarterback to be a player that can win you a game or two if an ankle sprain happens or a shoulder injury happens. But are the Chargers going to lose every single game the rest of the season with Easton Stick or Max Duggar? Is that his name? Duggan?
Duggan.
Without
Yep.
Justin Herbert,
TCU.
I mean, they might have lost every single game anyway with Justin Herbert because they're awful. But backup quarterbacks are supposed to come in and win you a game or two. They're not supposed to carry you the rest of the season. So is Zach Wilson a player that can come in and win you a game or two? Absolutely. I think honestly, if he had spent all season sitting behind Aaron Rodgers and then he'd spent all next season sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, somebody would have picked him up and given him a shot as a starter. And the thing about it is he played awful earlier this year, but you also see that it can get worse. Playing quarterback in the NFL is extremely hard. And, Zach Wilson's been through a lot of ups and downs over there. I wouldn't say his career is over, but I think he has a couple of years in front of him of sitting on the bench. He probably has a Baker Mayfield type career path in front of him where he's going to spend some years as a backup quarterback and he'll spend some years where someone will give him a chance. Baker has a lot to do with what we talked about earlier, kind of his attitude. He's not a good fit as a backup quarterback for your team. It brings the swag that you want out of a starter. But that's probably what Zach has in front of him. The other thing, I think we're going to go back and we're going to look at that NFL draft that year and we're going to throw it all out because the BYU Cougars, they normally have a stacked up schedule. They didn't play anyone that year that Zach Wilson balled out. Trey Lance didn't even play. Micah Parsons would have been the number one pick, number two pick. Trevor Lawrence went first, right? Yeah,
yes.
So he'd have been the number two pick. It's just a lot of things about that draft that we're going to completely throw out because there wasn't a lot of college football that got played that year. And Zach Wilson is just one of those. And, when the 49ers traded up to pick number 3, I immediately started texting you about, man, is it Justin Fields? Is it Trey Lance? Is it Mac Jones? We never even talked about Zach Wilson because we knew he was going number 2. It had already been decided. So it's just one of those things going back on that. I think he could be in the league for a long time because he has the talent to win you a game or two. But I think we've seen over the course of a season, he has his faults because the Jets are talented enough to win. Man, why didn't they call Joe Flacco? Why didn't they call Joe Flacco? And I'll tell you this, the thing with Zach Wilson is he's got all the talent in the world. Maybe he sits behind Aaron Rodgers for another couple of years or, maybe it's the offensive scheme over there. You put him with a Kyle Shanahan or a Andy Reid or the Colts head coach, Steichen, who is killing it with Minshew Mania over there this year. Maybe it's just Alex Smith was terrible for a lot of years of his career and with the right situation, pulled it out and became a very good quarterback. So, I would never call the kid's career over this early, but he's probably got the backup path in front of him moving forward.
Okay, so then let's do a little exercise then. Okay, so I'm going to take every losing record team right now. Okay, and I'm going to read you out their current quarterback. So it's either their current quarterback or Zach Wilson. And I want you just real quick, one or the other. So would you rather take Bryce Young or Zach Wilson?
Young.
Mac Jones or Wilson?
I'd rather have Zach Wilson. Now, Bryce he's in danger. Bryce is he looks awful. But Trevor Lawrence with Urban Meyer did not look great either. So that due to the youngness of that, It's definitely it's Bryce, but I got that Bryce Young situation, red flag. So keep going and get to the Steelers so we can say that Pickett's trash, and I would take Zach Wilson over Pickett.
So Kyler Murray or Zach
Kyler Murray.
Wilson?
Kyler Murray is still a stud.
Sam Howell or Zach Wilson?
Sam Howell.
Okay. Now, what about Chicago's very own Justin Fields or Zach Wilson?
Zach Wilson's got to go play for the Bears. I think you flip a coin there.
Okay. Then this one's kind of a toss-up because I don't really know what their starter is. Aidan McConnell, or is it Jimmy Garoppolo, or Zach Wilson?
I think Zach Wilson on the Raiders would be awesome. I think that with Devontae over there, I know Garrett Wilson is good, but Devontae is, you just throw the ball up to Devontae, and Zach Wilson just loves to throw the ball up there. I honestly, if you were to, if I could wave a wand and put Zach Wilson as a starting quarterback for any franchise next year, I'd pick the Raiders with a real head coach, and that would be very interesting to me.
Yeah, and I think I agree. Now, moving on to the next one, the other New York team, and again, I don't know who's we talking about. Daniel Jones? We talking about the Italian man himself, Tommy DeVito? One of those guys or Zach Wilson?
I would take Zach Wilson over DeVito. I wouldn't take him over Daniel Jones. I watched Daniel Jones play at a pretty high level. I think there's more than meets the eye with that situation in New York. There's a lot of talk about how the coaches over there really hate what's going on with the head coach right now, and a lot of drama in that situation, and that affects every member of the team. And Daniel Jones got beat down in the first game of the season, maybe second game of the season against the Cowboys. And I was watching him play, and he's making the right reads, and he can run with the ball a little bit. And Daniel Jones is on a better path than Zach Wilson is. Obviously, he's already got paid, but he seems like a type of player that might pop up in a couple of years with another team and really kind of impress a little bit, kind of like what Geno Smith has done with the Seahawks. And people be like, man, why didn't that work out at that other place? Those New York franchises, man, it's just people go there their careers go there to die, and then they get out of there and they're saved elsewhere. So
there's a couple non-interesting and interesting ones coming up. Will Levis or Zach Wilson?
Will Levis.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm not even going to entertain this one. I guess I can. Herbert or Zach Wilson?
Honestly, I told you before the season starts, I think Justin Herbert's a stud. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I think you got Mahomes. I think you got Burrow. I think you got Lamar, and then I think you got like Herbert right there. Maybe Josh Allen. I think the dude's an absolute stud. It's absolutely criminal what the Chargers have done to him to start his career. I'm sick and tired of the Chargers not spending money and hiring whoever Eric McCoy is, tight ends coach for somebody, Anthony Lynn, running backs coach for the 49ers. Brandon Staley probably won't even be in the league next year. He'll be coaching at Sac State. It's absolutely criminal what they've done to that kid, especially since they have so much talent on that team. Like, I think the last 10 years, I've said every year, man, Chargers really deep this year. So, yeah, obviously I'm not taking Zach Wilson over Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert's a stud. I think he's a future NFL MVP. And he's one of the very few top high-end quarterbacks in the NFL that I would trade for the quarterback I currently have. So
then we have Desmond Ridder or Zach Wilson.
I think they both suck right now.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Zach Wilson, because we know Desmond Ridder doesn't have it over there, and they have so much talent. If you can't make it work with all that talent, I don't know. You're not the guy.
And I think this next one's pretty interesting too. Is Derek Carr or Zach Wilson?
To be honest with you, I don't know why they try him out there every week with Jameis sitting on the bench. I don't know what happened to Derek Carr, man. I've been a big Derek Carr fan for a lot of years. Obviously, I'm a big Fresno State Bulldogs guy. His older brother played for the 49ers and was terrible. So I kind of hope that Carr had a redemption story. And he was, he's been good.
Yeah.
And his years that he wasn't good, you just go, oh, that's the Raiders. The Raiders can't get anything right. But he's been absolutely terrible for the Saints this year. And it's not like they hired him.
Yeah.
It's not like they signed him to a 1-year contract. You know what I mean? He got paid a little bit of money, which, so did Jimmy Garoppolo. There's a lot of interesting things this offseason coming up with quarterbacks in terms of these teams and if they're gonna run it back with their current situation. I'd probably take Derek Carr over Zach Wilson just because of the experience, and they don't really have much man, the Saints are just maybe one of the most like boring franchises in the NFL. You got
Yeah.
all that offensive talent over there, and I don't think for the life of me, I don't know if I can think of one Saints highlight this year, except for the Jameis Winston. He comes in right away and throws the pick, and the pick is dropped and it's caught, and they run it in for the touchdown or whatever that play was
Mm-hmm.
as soon as he came in. That's probably the one highlight I could think of, but nothing involving Derek
I
Carr.
see. I see more Jameis Winston on the sideline hyping up Derek Carr or rapping to Derek Carr or doing some type of pregame speech or something than I do actual New Orleans highlights. Only a couple more losing record teams, but I think there's only one that's kind of interesting, and it's you taking Zach Wilson or Baker Mayfield?
Baker.
Yeah. And the rest of them aren't super interesting. You got Green Bay, you got Seattle, you got LA. I don't think there's anything super interesting there. That's the rest of the losing records. But yeah, I don't think I really disagree with you too much. New England, I think is a definite swap. I'll take Zach on New England. I'll take Zach on Vegas. And I think when we were talking about it, I think that feels the best. When we were talking about it and we had the conversation right there, I think Zach Wilson to Vegas probably feels the best to me.
Now, don't get me wrong. I like the idea of Zach Wilson hucking it up to Mike Evans because Johnny Manziel made a college career out of that. But I don't know if Mike Evans is on the Buccaneers moving forward. So
Right.
I think it depends a lot, not to segue into Mike Evans here because we did this last week, but it depends on what he wants his legacy to be because he may be, he's going to be one of the greatest wide receivers of all time when he's done statistically wise. And if he straps him up with the Buccaneers for all those years, you become a legend for the Tampa Bay organization. But Tampa Bay is not really, it's not like you're a legend for the Cowboys. You're not a legend for the Raiders. You're not a legend for the Steelers. So we'll see. I think there's going to be a lot of competition for his services. And if he's not wearing